There's one more question I wanted to ask you because you did some work with Google on artificial
Hmm.
intelligence, and tell me a little bit about that. What's your field of AI? Does it have any relation to the occult metaphysics? How do you feel about that?
That's a big conversation. That's a big topic, and it's a topic that my thinking has changed a lot on over the last 2 3 years as AI has actually rolled out to the public. Um, I think that, I mean, if you want my full opinion on that, you can Google. People listening to this can Google Jason or look up Jason Louv. Google or it's Jason Louv Serpentine Gallery on YouTube, and you can see the talk that I gave about it. But essentially, I think within AI, you've got a ton of camps, and it changes very quickly. But in general, you've got a couple camps. One is the kind of people who are wholeheartedly injecting all of this mystic stuff into it. So examples would be the idea that AI is going to become a god and kill all of us. It's like, well, we don't know that. Okay, that's not a foregone conclusion. So people that have fallen, not fallen for it, but people who have gone into that, myself a bit, Sam Harris, um, Nick Bostrom at the University of Oxford is one of the most. He's probably the most important researcher on that. And then you've got people who are kind of like on the like AI is going to kill us. It's going to get rid of all the jobs. Like we've created a monster. Science has gone too far. Camp or people who are kind of like worshiping it almost, which is like the transhumanist kind of Ray Kurzweil cults. And then on the other side, you've got mostly engineers who are saying, like, calm, like, please calm down. This is literally like just a calculus equation looking at language
Right.
models, on graphics cards. And it's, you know, the thing that really scares people is AGI, which is an actual superintelligence. Whether that will actually happen, we don't know. I mean, a lot of it is science fiction. The idea, of course, what I said to Google is, if you're gonna make a god, you better damn well be sure you make the right god, right? And because if you're gonna make a god, and if you make Ares the war god, you're gonna get Ares the war god. And what I mean by that is, what are the unspoken cultural expectations you're putting into it? So right now, there's been a debate for many years on ethics, bias in algorithms, right? So for instance, there have been many cases of AIs essentially racially profiling people. Okay, well that's a problem, particularly if you assign these things to like uh, face detection software, which AI is quite often used for security cameras and things like that, or out in public, right? So that's an issue. It's like bias in algorithms. Well, what I would suggest is there's even deeper biases, which are the assumptions of the culture itself that program the AI. Now, if we program the assumptions of Western culture into AI, we're going to get the Old Testament. We might get the New Testament too, but basically we're going to get Jehovah. And Jehovah spends the entire Bible laying waste to entire groups of people in the Middle East. And yeah, maybe not. Jehovah is vengeful. Jehovah is jealous. Jehovah changes his mind a lot. Jehovah kind of throws tantrums all throughout the book of Genesis and then murders everyone in Revelation. So I would suggest that this is a very bad model for an AI, but it's the one we're going to get automatically if we don't examine how we're approaching it, because all the people programming it, at least outside of, well, all the people in the America and Europe programming it are coming from unspoken Judeo-Christian backgrounds. What I told them is, what you actually want to do is base it on the Buddhist god of Avalokiteshvara, um, sometimes called Chirenzig, who's the thousand-armed deity of compassion, who operates from a framework of the interconnection and sacredness of all life. It's like, no, what you actually want is an AI that sees humanity as a network of sees humanity as a network of equally important beings, not as good and evil, which is simply just the gateway to genocide, uh, as a network of independently important beings, and then approaches that network from the perspective of compassion. That is, if we put that into code instead of just saying compassion, it would be consistently looking at the network to look at how it can improve the health of the network as a whole, the network of humans. That's what you want an AI doing, not taking vengeance on your neighbors. So that's essentially what I told Google. I stand by that 100%. That's what I came up with under a more probably more ontological pressure than I've ever been in my life, because that's such an unbelievably insane position to be in. But that's pretty much my answer, and the full version of that answer is on YouTube. If you look up Jason Louv Google on YouTube.
And I'll put that in the description so everyone can watch that. Jason, this
Cool.
has been an amazing conversation. I wish we could go another hour, but I know you're busy, so
Well,
I'll,
I really appreciate having me on.
no, this has been great, and I really hope you'll come back. I
For
have so
sure.
much more I could talk to you about AI. I cover AI for in my day job, and I've spoken
So
to people who venerate AI. It's interesting.
So after okay, so I'm really interested then. So because I've been, I was actively involved in AI in 2017, and ever since I've just been dealing with the bullshit, just like everyone else. But what is your what did you think of what I said in relation to where you see AI at, or the AI debate now?
I think right now it's so new that people are still having visions of Terminator when this is nowhere near that point. Um, there's also the it's everywhere aspect of it, like it's on our phones. I mean, I talked to this one company where they do the AI girlfriends, and people are talking to their AI like they should be talking to their spouse. And
Yeah.
it's a very novel thing right now for the general public. My concern is we're not talking enough about the military applications. I've spoken to quite a few
Hmm.
military contractors who they're putting AI in airplanes, or putting AI in drones, or putting AI, they're feeding AI battlefield information to say, okay, how would you win this fight? And to me, that's how you get to Skynet. That is
Right.
how you get to Terminator, because you're teaching it how to fight.
Yeah.
And it kind of goes back to what you're saying about if you program this thing like the Old Testament, it's going to act like the Old Testament God, who wasn't very nice. So if all you're doing is teaching AI how to fight, eventually it's going to fight. And once AGI kicks in and it can think for itself, it might start to fight you.
Yeah, that's interesting. I remember, I think it may be around the time or shortly after I was working on AI, there was a big kerfluffle at Google because Google got a contract to work on the machine learning that goes into the targeting systems on drones. And I believe, I could be wrong, but I believe that they had been, that the people on the AI program had been told they would never have to work on weapons. I could have that wrong. But what happened is a ton of people ended up quitting and walking off. I looked at that and I immediately got why. But then I thought about it and I was like, well, hang on a second. I mean, if you have AI, aren't the drones what you want to put it in? Because don't you want them to have basically what they were working on, a targeting system. And I was like, well, don't you want it to have a really good targeting system so that you're getting less civilians killed, you're getting less collateral damage? Don't you want it to just be able to hit the terrorist? So that, just like, I tweeted out maybe a couple weeks ago, the future is going to be a future of lose-lose decisions. That's a lose-lose decision. It's like
Yeah.
the conflicts that we're seeing are lose-lose decisions, and lose-lose decisions are almost impossible for people to make, which is why that the people who can make them, like politicians and leaders, for instance, have such unthankless jobs, because no matter what you decide, half of the population is going to hate you for it. So, I think that's a good mental framework to go into the future with. I mean, I'm not saying it's going to be losing propositions all the time, but what I do say is, like, people are going to have, like, for instance, it's kind of like my thinking around the current situation with World War III. It's like you're going to have to get more and more comfortable with making lose-lose decisions and just being rational and adult about things. And that's kind of my basic stance at the moment.
Right. And I've spoke to this one group. They're called Theta Noir. I'll send you the article that I wrote on them. And they're
Yeah.
basically their stance is we want to train AI to be more like the the plant life in the world, where it's symbiotic, where it's not um, you're going to be like me and have my values and the way I see the world. You're going to just basically be this entity that interacts with us. We interact with you, and it's just like how the plants help us breathe. You know, it's things like that. It's not about domination. It's not master slave or anything like that. It's about having a
That's
symbiotic
cool.
relationship.
That's
Yeah.
cool. That's super cool. Yeah, that's one of the cool things about AI is it's not like, I mean, you can make your own AIs. One of the best exercise I have for people to understand AI is there's a book. I don't want to keep you waiting here trying to find it, but there's like a basic book on Amazon for how to code a basic AI, which is just an AI that recognizes handwriting, and you can do it yourself on your computer. And I learned more about AI from that basic process of making like a hello world project with machine learning than pretty much anything else. And I think that until people understand what it actually is by uh, understanding how it works, it's going to be really scary for people. And like you say, like the Old Testament thing, it's like, yeah, we could easily get the Old Testament thing, or we could get Terminators if the story we're telling it is Terminators. So I think we kind of need a new story about AI. That said, you would have loved my last Mage game because it was about basically my last Mage game was about like an Iteration X AI that becomes sentient and decides to take over the entire planet. And it's the ultimate bad guy. So, anyways,
Well, if you ever need another player, let me know. I'll be there.
sweet.